Giving your partner a squirting orgasm can be one of the most intense experiences of their life, but learning how to make your partner squirt can be quite difficult. However, with the right tips, the right timing, and the right technique, almost any woman can squirt. Hey, I'm Ryan Mack, sex coach and educator, and I still remember 4 or 5 years ago when I was trying to make my partner squirt for the first time. She'd never squirted, or she'd only done it once by accident by herself. I'd never been able to make anyone squirt either, and so it took us about a week of trial and error and looking up different videos to successfully be able to make her squirt. And since that day, I've been able to make multiple partners squirt of mine, many for the first time. So if you've never been able to make your partner squirt before, then I just want to say that it is possible. Almost every woman can do it, but just know that it may take some practice and it may take some time. Now, when it comes to making your partner squirt, I find it really helpful to understand exactly what squirt is, because this is going to help you line up when to best use your techniques to have the best chance of success. Because yes, there's specific techniques that you want to use to make your partner squirt. However, timing and arousal is just as important as the techniques. You can have the best technique possible, but if your partner isn't aroused, not only will they not be able to squirt, but you might actually hurt them. So there is still a bit of contention about what squirting is and where exactly it comes from. And there's only a very few small studies on squirting. There was one study that did ultrasounds on women who emptied their bladder before starting to pleasure themselves to show that their bladder was empty. The women then pleasured themselves and their bladders filled up, and the women then squirted and their bladders were shown to be empty again. Showing that when someone does squirt, like that big ejaculation, the big gushing, lots of fluid, wet the bed kind of squirting, that does come from the bladder. But in that study, they also analyzed the squirting liquid and found that in 5 out of 7 of the women, it also contained prostatic specific antigen, or like a prostatic fluid. And there's also the Skene's glands as well in the vulva, which can produce fluid, and these can be involved in squirting as well. But what I find useful about understanding all this is not knowing exactly where squirt comes from or whether or not it's wee or not. I have a full video on that if you're curious, but just the process that's required in order for a woman to squirt. And the process is that the woman needs to get highly aroused. You need to get blood flow into the area and a buildup of liquid so that when you do go to use your techniques, she has that liquid to be able to squirt out. This means that if you go in your fingers straight away and try and make her squirt, it may just be that there's not enough fluid in the area for her to squirt yet. So you really need to time it. And I've always found the best success when trying to make my partner squirt is timing my techniques with their peak arousal state. You know how sometimes you have sex or foreplay with someone and it's good, but you never enter into that full orgasmic kind of headspace where everything just feels absolutely amazing and your body is in peak arousal? So if you're just having run-of-the-mill sex and your partner's aroused but not highly aroused, then this isn't necessarily the best time to try and make them squirt. You can still successfully do it, especially with someone that squirted in the past, but if they've never squirted before, then ideally you want to try these techniques when they're at that peak arousal state, when you're having an amazing session together, when they're completely turned on, completely relaxed and in the moment, fully aroused, and they've got a lot of blood flow in the area, which takes time to build up through pleasuring with your fingers, with your mouth, and through intercourse. It can be really good to start with pleasuring the G-spot and slowly bringing pleasure and blood flow into that area, and over time taking her through waves of pleasure and building her up to that peak arousal. So I'm about to show you the basic technique of how to get your partner to squirt, and while this will work for most women, if you're serious about making your partner squirt, then I've got a full detailed course on the exact techniques that I use to make the women in my life squirt. We go through everything such as techniques as well as timing, arousal, how to get them in the right headspace, and how to talk to your partner about squirting. And we go through the best body positions for squirting as well. And the one position that I find extremely helpful if they've never squirted before or if you've never made someone squirt before. So go to passionately.com/squirt or click the link in the description down below to sign up for that course today. I look forward to helping you giving your partner some of the most amazing squirting orgasms of their life. Okay, now onto the technique. And now the technique to make your squirt when you reach that peak arousal state is to shift from using maybe one finger to stimulate her G-spot, is you actually want to shift to 2 fingers, and I tend to use the middle and the ring finger, though you can use the pointer finger and the middle finger as well. And some people can squirt with just 1 finger, but I find it way more useful to use 2. And if I'm fingering my partner, the fingers on the outside also play an important role. So rather than them being pointed up towards kind of their stomach, which gives you more upward pressure with your fingers, this is great for G-spot stimulation. You actually want to shift those fingers down, pointing towards their bum, which is going to make your fingers a lot flatter. And what's going to change here is that when you stimulate the G-spot, often we're doing this come here motion, and we might be sliding in and out as well in order to stimulate them. When we sense that they're getting to that peak arousal and are really aroused, we want to shift from this kind of drawing out motion to a pulling motion. So if we are pulling up on the top of their vagina, and we're also kind of pushing down a little bit as well. So if their vulva is here, this is their top of their vaginal wall, we're actually pulling up and down, up, down, up, down. And so we shift from a come here motion to an up down motion, but we're also still applying pressure on the roof of the vagina there. Then what's going to happen is you're going to build up that pressure over time until eventually you are going really quickly. Now, what I find when I shift into the technique to make my partner squirt is that I move my muscles from mainly focusing on moving my fingers inside. I'll actually mostly lock off my fingers. Now, I will allow some movement of the finger so I can still apply pressure up the top, but a lot of the movement shifts into my forearm and my upper arm here, and it almost starts to vibrate. Now, before you start this vibration, you can actually begin by pulsing your fingers like this. So rather than doing the drawing come here motion, you're actually pulsing your fingers like this slowly. You can see I'm pulsing my fingers now, but also I'm using my elbow here to kind of lift my fingers up. So we can start with this pulsing. We can also push down a little bit as well. Not like a huge amount because that can actually hurt them and tear, but there's actually perennial sponge between the vaginal opening and the anus, which is erectile tissue, which can feel good. So we're pulling up and then pulsing down, pulling up, pulsing down, and then eventually as we get faster, I'll actually lock in my fingers and I'll go faster and faster like this. It's actually a very strenuous activity, and when you're inside them, it can be quite difficult to do, and your arm is going to get sore. You'll get a lot of pump in your forearm here, and the rest of your arm can get sore. You'll get tired as well. It's quite vigorous for you as the giver in order to do this technique. Now, it really is a sprint, which is why you want to wait until they're at that peak arousal state right before they have an orgasm, so that when you're doing this, ideally you want to push them into orgasm. Or you can give them an orgasm first, and then when they're in that orgasm state, if they can have multiple orgasms, then you can shift into this and push them to have multiple orgasms and to have squirting orgasms. Now, this is the basic technique, but inside my course, I talk about a lot of the nuances that go along with this technique, because little changes in the ways that you move your fingers in and out, or the position of your wrist, where it is, or your elbow, whether it's high or low, can all play a role in whether or not you're able to successfully make your partner squirt. If you're serious about making your partner squirt and you want to learn the exact techniques that I use to make my partner squirt, then go to passionately.com/squirt or click the link in the description down below and sign up today. Now, another thing that can affect whether your partner is able to squirt or not is their body position. Most often, they're going to be lying on their back with their legs either side of you, but what can be helpful is to actually grab a pillow like this and put it under their bum to lift their pelvis up. This can allow you to get deeper inside them when you're using the squirting technique, which can help some women to squirt more easily. You can also fold the pillow in half if you want to raise their pelvis up even more, or you can lift up their leg over your shoulder and lean forward to be able to get in there. Now, while this technique does seem simple, it does take practice to be able to do it successfully. It's going to take time for your partner as well to understand what a squirting orgasm feels like, and it's very common for them to feel like they might need to wee when you're doing this technique. So it can be useful to talk to them ahead of time about this, and also to encourage them in the moment when you're doing this. Let your partner know ahead of time that you love squirting. You think it's really sexy. If she could squirt, that would be amazing. You don't want to put pressure on her that she has to squirt in order to make you happy, but just let her know that this is something that you find incredibly sexy. And if it was to happen, you would absolutely love it. That allows her to get out of her mind in the moment, worrying that you might not like what's about to happen, and she can really relax. And then when you're in the moment doing the technique, you can reinforce that, encouraging her that she is so sexy. Fuck, you are so hot. Yes, baby, just relax, just enjoy it. Or if she squirted before, you might want to say, yeah, squirt for me, baby. Let it go. Something like that. Or you could potentially dirty talk to her if that's something that she's into, as that can help some women get out of their heads and just really enjoy the moment. But even something as basic as just encouraging them, fuck yes, you're so sexy. Oh my God. Just to let them know that you're really enjoying yourself in the moment, they can relax and let go. And also, after you've had this session with your partner and after they've squirted, make sure you encourage them as well. Because if they've never squirted before, they can feel very vulnerable and sensitive. So now's just a good time to do some really good aftercare. Give them encouraging words about how sexy they were, how much you absolutely loved it, how good they did, how amazing it was. All of that sort of stuff. Give them cuddles if they like that. Take the time with them to relax them. Often after a squirting orgasm, she's going to feel a bit lightheaded. It can be a very different orgasm experience to a clitoral orgasm or a G-spot orgasm. She can actually have a refractory period, much like how as guys, we have a refractory period after we orgasm. So she might need to have a break. She might need to rest, and take good care of her and encourage her so that when it happens again next time, she's going to be relaxed and it's going to be easier to squirt again. You'll notice that the more you do it, the better you get at your techniques, the stronger that your arms get, but also the more in tune you get with your partner and when they might be ready for a squirting orgasm. And also they'll get more in tune with their body as well and how they can squirt, because in the moment they actually need to relax their pelvic floor muscles, not tighten them up. So if you feel like you're doing the technique and she's tightening her pelvic floor, that might be because some women like to tighten in order to bring themselves to orgasm, or it could be that she's tightening because she's afraid of weeing. So if that happens, just let her know to relax her pelvic floor muscles. Just relax, I've got you. And over time, she'll get to know how to do that, which will make squirting easier for both of you. So go out there, give this a go. And if you want a more detailed guide on exactly how to make your partner squirt with all of those little nuances, then go to passionately.com/squirt or click the link in the description down below. Otherwise, go ahead and check out this video, which is one of the best tips I have on this squirting technique and how you can do it so that your arm doesn't get as sore and that you're more likely to make her squirt.